Welcome back to the grind for an Act 7.3 guide. This is quest number 5 with the Power Reserve lane that also has Paradox, Debuffs, Entropic Generator, and Quantum Invasion. And we're going to have to apply debuffs to the defender in order to remove this unblockable passive. So if you do not have a way to apply debuffs in the opponent's kit, you will not be able to get rid of that unblockable buff because you can't parry to apply a stun. However, once you've applied 3 debuffs to the opponent, you'll have 3 Paradox charges, and that will get rid of the unblockable passive, and that will allow you to play the fight normally. And the problem is, if you keep applying debuffs, you're going to stack up a bunch of these Paradox charges, and the only way to get rid of them is with a light ending combo. And because Hulkbuster is applying 2 debuffs with his special one, the stun and the armor break, we cannot actually get rid of the Paradox charges fast enough because we're applying 2 and getting rid of 1. However, you can still get through a fight, maybe a couple fights with the regeneration with Hulkbuster with a stun lock, but other champions like Ronin or Stark Spider-Man will be able to stun lock the opponents without any trouble. However, you can use other champions that can totally cheese this path, such as Professor X, but you'll have trouble building up Paradox charges because there's no way you can apply debuffs unless you have Mr. Fantastic on your team to apply those pre-fights, which will give you debuffs on the opponent, and that will actually give you 3 Paradox charges at the start of the fight, and then all you have to do is just build up your charges, your channeling charges with Professor X, get yourself to a special 3, and then you can just infinitely cycle special 3s until the opponent dies without any issues at all. Dr. Doom is another fantastic option. He can apply the shock with his medium attacks, so he does have a way to get those Paradox charges built up, but you will have to play the start of the fight with an unblockable opponent. However, once you get yourself up to 3 bars of power, you can just loop through this without any difficulty at all. The thing you have to keep in mind is every time you throw a medium, you're going to apply a shock debuff, which is going to increase your Paradox charges by 1, and then you'll have to end in a light attack in order to decrease it by 1. So you can do this by several different methods. And if you use champions that power control, this is also an option, but remember, you do have to get around being able to apply debuffs to get them out of the unblockable state. Now that we've already used Dr. Doom, we already have Paradox charges. The problem is now we have 7 Paradox charges, and we have to manage that without going to 9, where we'll take burst damage and lose all our Paradox charges. And if we always use our medium attack, that's going to continue pushing us up. And I made a bunch of mistakes right here, but that's okay. We're going to salvage it. So now we're at 8. Then I ended with a light attack to bring us down to 7. And you can do your special 3 loop without applying any shocks, in fact. And we're going to show some ways of doing that. So we're coming out, we're doing a light, then we're dashing in with a medium, and then 4 lights, and that's going to get rid of the Paradox charge. So if you have 7, you'll only go up to 8, and then you'll be able to bring yourself back down to 7. And at some point in this fight, we're going to find that I get stuck at 8, and I'm going to have to get around that, and you can do that in a couple different ways. So you can see this was very straightforward. Once we got to special 3, there was nothing the opponent could do, and the fight ended pretty simply, and it only took about 75 hits, which isn't too bad. I wanted to show other options. For example, with Ghost, you don't have to worry about the unblockable opponent at all, and because of Power Reserve, you can throw off tons of special 2s. If you fully synergize Ghost, that'll make this path extremely easy. The thing to consider, though, is when the opponent throws a special attack, you are going to get an armor break on you, so you cannot rely on phasing for a short duration until the armor break falls off. And I do not have suicides on right now, so my Ghost is not hitting very hard, and I did not bring in synergies, but I wanted to bring in Ghost just to showcase how you could do this with Ghost for at least part of the fight. And I did end up making some mistakes, and therefore I ended up dying and finishing off the fight with another champion. But you can see it's possible to play around that armor break without too much difficulty, and so if you don't have any other good options for this and you are a proficient Ghost player, this is an option for you. So then I went in to finish off the fight with Dr. Doom, and like I had been showing you before, this is a very straightforward fight. I brought in 2 Dr. Dooms for this actually, so this time I need to build up my Paradox charges again in order to remove the unblockable buff on the opponent. And thankfully, Dr. Doom's heavy attack ending stun with when you have the shock and his special 3 stun are passive stuns, so we don't have to worry about stun reflection for this fight. And I did make a few mistakes in this fight, but that's okay. We're now at a special 3, and when we throw that off, the fight is basically over once again. A light, dash back in for a medium, and 4 light. lights, and we're back to 3 bars of power. I don't remember what I was waiting for there, but I was waiting out a little bit, and I ended up making some silly mistakes where I throw my heavy attack in for no reason, and finally we throw off our special 3, light, back off, dash in for a medium, and 4 lights, and again back up to a special 3. And once again, I'm not sure what I was doing. I can't remember what I was doing, but I end up throwing off another heavy attack and then letting him counter me, but that's okay. We're back to a special 3, and we go into the cycle, and now we're just throwing off the special 3s without anything to worry about at all. So now we're going in for our final special 3, and that's going to finish off this fight against Black Panther. And as I said, Dr. Doom just makes this path so simple, but you could also do this with Professor X. The ultimate way to cheese is by using Mr. Fantastic's pre-fights as well as White Magneto's pre-fights, so that when you stun, you can easily ramp up Professor X without applying debuffs, and that will allow you to control your paradox charges a lot more easily. Now here I accidentally went to 9 paradox charges, and so I ended up dying from that burst damage, but we're going back in and we're going to do better this time. So this is also a very easy fight because you don't even have to do any special cycle. All that damage from the shocks being applied and your energy damage attacks are going to deal so much burst damage. And I should have thrown off a special 1 to nullify that indestructibility, but I'm not sure again what was going on. I threw off a special 2 into a block, but see all that burst damage? That fight is just so simple with Dr. Doom if you do have him along. Now, since I had Hulkbuster, I did want to showcase how you can use him for at least one fight. And again, if you had Stark Spider-Man or a champion like Ronin ranked up that can apply a stun on their special 1 and it doesn't have any other debuffs applied, then you can very easily put them into a loop with throwing off your special 1, doing a light 4-hit light combo, and that will remove the paradox charge that you gained from your stun, and then you can just keep cycling the special 1s. I made a couple mistakes while I was ramping up and getting rid of the unblockable passive, but once we get there, once we get to 1 bar of power, doesn't really matter. The fight is basically over because we can just infinitely stun lock him and push him into the corner, and we throw off the special 1. And again, like I said, unfortunately we're going to constantly be building up 1 extra charge, and at some points I start getting too much power, so I end up quickly throwing a light attack before Jabari Panther stands up, and that's going to allow me to not gain power for that light attack and keep me at a point where I'm comfortably only gaining 1 bar of power and not pushing up to a special 2. You can see I'm taking a lot of burst damage from going over 8 paradox charges, but we very comfortably finished this fight with still about 30% health, and so we didn't even trigger the regen in that fight. Now the last fight on this path is Corvus Glaive, and we're going in once again with Dr. Doom, and right now we're at 8 paradox charges, so I could not use my medium attack, so I had to counter a heavy with a light combo, and we were able to sneak that in pretty easily, but now we're playing pretty close to 8 charges. Now we're down to 7, but back up to 8 here, and we're going to be at 8 when we throw off our special 3. So in order to remove that charge, we're going to do a light attack, we're going to pause, and before the stun expires, we're going to do 4 more light attacks. Now, unfortunately, this does not get us to 3 bars of power, but we can actually do this combo, and to see, again, we're at 8, we're doing 2 light attacks, pausing, and before the stun expires, it resets our combo because of the pause, and then we can go back in with 4 light attacks, and that's how you can cycle this at 8 paradox charges. So if you find yourself gaining too many paradox charges and you want to get rid of some of them, you just do 2 light attacks at the very end of the special 3, and then pause until the stun is about to expire, and then do 4 more light attacks, and that will get you all the way back up to 3 bars of power. Or you can just go into the dash back, dash in medium if you're able to get rid of some of those paradox charges, and you can just stick to that. But I do hope that this video is helpful. Let me know what your thoughts are on this path, what champions you use, and I hope to see you in the next video.